Can you play games with us?
The following program is brought to you in living color on NBC.
The NBC television newsreel with Paul Alley, your commentator, bringing you late news pictures filmed by NBC cameramen at home and abroad.
The makers of Camel cigarettes bring the world's latest news events right into your own living room. Sit back, light up a Camel, and be an eyewitness to the happenings that made history in the last 24 hours. The Camel News Caravan presents Today's News Today, produced for Camel Cigarettes by NBC.
Ladies and gentlemen, a good evening to you.
Plymouth, the car that's making news, presents the Plymouth News Caravan, the excitement, the drama of today's news today, produced for Plymouth by NBC.
Messages of
In 1956,
The Huntley-Brinkley Report.
they revolutionized television.
The Huntley-Brinkley Report is produced by NBC News and brought to you in color by Crest. This is the news, reported by Chet Huntley and David Brinkley.
Nguyen Van Thieu, president of South Vietnam, today.
NBC News, Election Central in New York. Here is the news, reported by Chet Huntley and David Brinkley.
The candidates today voted early.
This is the NBC Nightly News, Monday, August 3rd, 1970. Brought to you by Post Cereals, the cereals that make breakfast a little bit better.
There are numerous reports here in Washington and in Southeast Asia that American airplanes in Cambodia are flying.
This is the NBC Nightly News, Monday, August 3rd, 1970. From Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is NBC Nightly News, Tuesday, April 4th, reported by John Chancellor with David Brinkley's Journal.
And good evening.
The broadcast was given its current name in 1970, with John Chancellor at the helm.
Good evening on one of the heaviest.
This is NBC Nightly News, Friday, June 23rd, reported by John Chancellor with David Brinkley's Journal.
Good evening.
NBC Nightly News, Wednesday, April 5th, reported by John Chancellor.
Good evening on.
This is NBC Nightly News, Wednesday, April 17th, reported by John Chancellor with David Brinkley's Journal.
Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News, Tuesday, June 24th, with John Chancellor reporting from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening.
From the NBC News Center in New York, this is NBC Nightly News, Thursday, August 8th, reported by John Chancellor.
Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News, December 23rd, with John Chancellor reporting from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening. President.
This is NBC Nightly News with John Chancellor and David Brinkley. Tonight, Wednesday, July 20th, reported by David Brinkley from the NBC News Center in New York.
Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News with David Brinkley in Washington and John Chancellor in New York.
Good evening. In Boston.
This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with John Chancellor in Jerusalem, David Brinkley in Washington, and Jessica Savage in New York.
This is NBC Nightly News. With John Chancellor, who is off tonight, Roger Mudd in New York, and tonight's special segment, Real Athletes, Phony Students. Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jessica Savage and Dick Schaap with sports.
Good evening. The American Embassy in...
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw in New York, Roger Mudd in Washington, and commentary by John Chancellor. Good evening. The government...
This is NBC Nightly News, reported by Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Tom Brokaw with NBC Nightly News.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Oregon cult.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
From Cape Canaveral, NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. It's been a...
Romanian television says Ceausescu and his wife have been executed.
Finally been run to ground.
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News, reported by Garrick Utley.
Good evening. In
NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. Iraqis pour into the streets of Baghdad.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw, reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Tonight, America at war. Reporting from Saudi Arabia, Tom Brokaw with Jane Pauley in New York.
Good evening from Lawrence Powell, one of the Rodney King cops to be...
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw. Reporting tonight from NBC News headquarters in New York.
Good evening.
A holiday amid the swells by the sea.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening. American troops step up to roll.
From NBC News, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
Secrets and lies. The U.S. government drops almost all charges against really is just a number.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News, reported by John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone.
Attack on America. This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
John Cameron's wages.
Brett Huntley. David Brinkley. John Chancellor.
More troops. The U.S. to raise...
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Tom Brokaw.
Good evening.
John Cameron's wages.
Brett Huntley. David Brinkley. John Chancellor.
Danger zone, flooding, evacuation of going to the movies.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with John Siegenthaler.
Good evening, everyone.
John Cameron's wages.
Brett Huntley. David Brinkley. John Chancellor.
Trapped on planes for 11 hours.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening.
This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, reporting tonight from Blacksburg, Virginia.
On the broadcast tonight, Miracle on the Hudson. The latest tonight on the last moments of Flight's Way. Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening. Over the past...
From NBC News Election Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
On our broadcast tonight, one by one, the miners trapped for Nightly News begins now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams.
Good evening.
This is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, reporting tonight from the Olympic Winter Games in Vancouver.
And good.
Disaster in Japan. This is a special edition of NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams. This is NBC Nightly News with Brian Williams, reporting tonight from our election headquarters on Democracy Plaza.
And good evening from our spectacular location here tonight at Rockefeller Plaza in the center of New York City, transformed for the evening into democracy.
On this Saturday night brazen attack, the wild scene in Dallas during a ramp, the surprising role for a celebrated comedy club. Nightly News begins now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Substituting tonight from Washington, Peter Alexander.
Good evening.
Tonight, anti-Semitism uproar. President Trump condemns who came to the rescue. Nightly News begins right now.
From NBC News World Headquarters in New York, this is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening to our...
Decision Night in America. This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. From our NBC News election headquarters, we're on the eve of the midterm election. We are seeing voter enthusiasm bordering the level of a presidential election.
This is NBC Nightly News. Decision 2020. Here is Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone, from NBC. Breaking news tonight, a judge's major ruling involving immigration at the U.S.-Mexico border. A federal judge blocking the Biden administration from lifting smile.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening. There is breaking news.
This is NBC Nightly News with Kate Snow.
Tonight, the desperate search in the North Atlantic for a missing submersible near the Titanic. The U.S. and Canadian toast to the past.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight,
this is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. Tonight, our special one-hour edition of Nightly News on the stunning comeback as Donald Trump is elected to become the 47th president of the United States. Mr. Trump riding a red wave back to the White House for the criminal cases pending against him. We will break it all down with full political team coverage. Our special edition of Nightly News begins now.
This is NBC Nightly News, Decision 2024. Live from election headquarters in New York, here is Lester Holt.
Good evening, everyone. The 2024 race for President of the United States is over. Tonight, the growing questions over the deadly mid-air disaster. 67 people killed when a Black Hawk helicopter collided with an American Airlines regional jet.
I just have spent the last, 24 hours thinking about my wife.
Votes to be confirmed.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt, reporting tonight from Washington, D.C.
Good evening from Reagan National Airport, where flights resumed today following last night's deadly mid-air collision between an American Eagle passenger jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter. Today, families of Tonight, a violent spring catches the South by surprise. Kentucky torn apart after an unexpected tornado, the 45th of the year. As the sun came up, people on the ground stunned. And the damage across the deep South, the wild blue yonder. The news we've covered, the people we've met, and the stories we've told. Your stories. My gratitude to all of you on this special night.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. This spring of extraordinarily.
Tonight, millions of people on alert as wildfire smoke sweeps through much of the country. Smoky skies prompting air quality concerns across the upper Midwest as more than fans. And there's good news tonight about the next chapter right here at NBC Nightly News.
This is NBC Nightly News with Jose Diaz-Balart.
Good evening. We begin tonight with the dangerous air conditions in parts of the Midwest.
Tonight, the big, beautiful breakup. President Trump now threatening Elon Musk. Tweet by tweet, the close friendship between the president and Musk exploding in public view. The president saying he may cut Musk's company's contracts, sending Tesla stock into a free fall. Network by a major health insurer. Turns out, many don't exist. And the warning to women taking the pill and taking weight loss drugs. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas.
And good evening. Tonight, the clash of titans, a very public feud igniting between President Trump and the world's richest man, Elon Musk. The fight breaking out today after President Trump. Tonight, two major breaking stories as we come on the air. The U.S. Senator handcuffed on camera and the air disaster killing hundreds. The stunning tonight, moments after takeoff, hundreds of feet up, an Air India flight loses altitude and crashes many as they could to safety. We meet one woman desperate to find her husband. And the biggest great white ever recorded in the Atlantic, why scientists believe it may be headed to a popular U.S. vacation spot. Nightly News starts right now.
This is NBC Nightly News with Tom Yamas.
And good evening. We are tracking two major breaking stories tonight. In Los Angeles, an outcry from Democrats after Senator Alex Padilla was forcibly removed from Homeland Security.
But who is responsible for this mess?